Well, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. I've got to get the agenda in front of me. He keeps on covering everybody's stuff up with other material. If we could go ahead and just do a roll call.
Right. Are all your microphones on? With the red light on?
There.
Keep those on.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, they were.
Light on means.
I'll call the roll.
Yep, I think
Yeah.
this one's yours. Whichever one. Yeah.
Ginger Redlinger?
Here.
Bill Clark? Absent. Jerry Herman?
Here.
Doug Neely?
Here.
Trent Warnes?
Here.
Dorothy Dalsworth?
Here.
And I don't know if all of you know, but Richard Craven has stepped down. He's busy. And we're going to...
You stepped down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, we got an announcement of that.
okay.
Yeah. So we'll be looking for a
Fighting
replacement to
fires
fill
in
out his term.
Is he fighting fires in Oklahoma or what?
I'm not sure. It's
I
going
think
to be
he's
out of
over.
state a lot, doing
Okay.
work and things.
He's worked hard for us. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
And so I'll be advertising to fill out his term. And as soon as we can get an advertisement out, and we'll go through the interview process to fill that position.
Why don't you join the committee?
Then I'd have to vote. So thank you. We have a quorum.
And we do have a quorum. And before we start with our regular agenda that we have before us, I've invited Shelley Perini to come and speak to us and talk to us about a lot of the interesting things to the Natural Resource Committee that's going on at the Clackamas Community College. You might say who you were and who you are.
Sure. Can I stay here or do you want me
You
to
can
move?
come up and address the
Okay.
committee up here. Thanks, Shelley.
It has much as to do with, I think, the presence of the cameras and so forth, too.
Absolutely. Well, good evening. It's nice to be here. My name is Shelley Perini. I'm the Associate Vice President for Clackamas Community College. I've been with them for about 10 years, and I've served in a variety of roles. When I started with the college, I oversaw the foundation, was where we do all of our friend and fundraising, and then added marketing and college relations to the mix. So that's a little bit about me. And then Doug and I go way back and have worked together. And Jerry, who's one of my newest buddies that I've met during this restoration effort of the Environmental Learning Center. But I have heard about his legacy for a very, very long time. So it's a pleasure to be able to work with him. And they asked me to come and tell you a little bit about what we're doing. But it's really not a presentation, it's a conversation. So at any point in time, Dee Dee, just stop me and ask if you a little
Why do you look at me?
clarifying question.
We don't,
Or
apparently-
my reputation
apparently we don't
precedes
get to
me.
ask any questions.
Trent.
Since you,
I'm just practicing your names right
questions.
here. There you go. See, all right, we're already having a conversation talking with each other. So I guess I will start a little bit from the beginning, and and I'll start with this piece of material that I've handed out to you. It's called a bond update. And about 4 or 5 years ago, the college started doing deep listening and engagement sessions with the community, and the community that we serve is almost all of Clackamas County, but not quite. Most people don't realize that we are mission aligned with a very specific geographic region. And so Clackamas County serves Clackamas Community College serves all of Clackamas County except for Lake Oswego, and then Sandy and up to the top of the mountain. So that is our geographic area, and we have 7 different board members who are elected officials who represent that area. And we started going out and really listening and trying to understand what the community most values about who we are as an institution, and what we do as it relates to education and training, and where we should be positioning ourselves as we moved into our 50th year of service, which is today. We are now in the midst of our 50th anniversary. And so, not surprising, what people most valued was education and training that leads to a career certificate or a transfer degree. I mean, overwhelmingly, those were the two biggest areas. The biggest barriers, transportation was one, which surprises people. Another one was access to information, and I think we all are challenged. How do we get the word out on all of our collective great work that we do in education or the public sector? But the number one was the cost of an education, whether it was finances or tuition or child care, even the cost of gas. And so as we started digging deeper into the heart and the soul of really what made the place of Clackamas Community College special, there was this theme that continued to come up over and over again, even though it was not the number one, but it came up, and that was the connection to environmental learning, to sustainability, to natural resource preservation, and of course to this wonderful place housed on our campus called the Environmental Learning Center. And so the board did something I think really bold and amazing, because as most of you probably know about the rich history of the ELC, if you know Jerry, I'm sure you know it very well, is that it started as its own nonprofit, this innovative entrepreneurial entity that came out of teaching and learning, because Jerry, one of the founders, was a student. And it was the relationship between he and an instructor that really started this incredible spark before it became a nonprofit. So I always like to go back to the history in that tie, because the ELC and the college were always interdependent and related to one another, just like any other biology network, right? It's not separate, they're connected. But the college got really busy doing what it does, serving students around those core values, and over the time things transitioned and changed, and the ELC fell into some disrepair. But there it was, even though it was getting a little run down, weeds were getting a little high, the love and the passion from the community was still there. And so the board came together with the support of our president and said that will be our 50th anniversary gift to the community. And I'll pause with this group because I think that is really powerful. A lot of universities would raise money for a new piece of art. Clock towers are pretty popular. But what they are doing, and why I brought this bond update, because what's really important, especially for those out there listening who serve on our Citizen Oversight Committee, that's the group who makes sure that we're spending the $90 million of bond monies on what we said we would do. We have to raise that money. So it wasn't an easy pass because of the bond. We knew we would have to raise the money to do the restoration. One of the things that was really important for me, though, for the community and for you here to understand its connection to, which is why you see on the back here the ELC Newell Creek restoration plans and description connected on this bond report, because it will, in fact, benefit from the bond improvements. Because right now, if you've ever been in the back of Barlow Hall, you know we like to call it Barlow Lake. And it does fill up, and actually in this last flood somebody had parked their car and it was within hours the water was up to the window and going into the car. There's just this, they were at the perfect dip place. They couldn't have been better. They were parked way away from everybody because they had a nice new car and they didn't probably want to get door dinged. But anyway, instead it took a bath. So that water runs amok, and it really flows in dramatic ways, as you can imagine, into what is now the headwaters of Newell Creek and the ponds at the Environmental Learning Center, and does not go in or out into Newell Creek Canyon in the most efficient natural way possible. And so that is how the Environmental Learning Center is going to benefit from the bond improvements. It's really from all of the tremendous stormwater improvements that we're going to make throughout the campus. So that allows us then to really stop looking at the headwaters as a stormwater detention pond and start really looking at it as a natural resource amenity that people can come again and gather and learn and study and recreate and enjoy. And that's our birthday gift on May 21st. So I'm just going to slide around these pieces of paper. Stop me anytime. I hope that all of you will join us. You'll see that we have a number of anniversary activities. There's a wonderful, rich website if you want to find out all the goodies, but what I believe you'll be passionate about on May 21st, that we're going to have a birthday party and we're going to celebrate that gift. We're going to kick off. Jerry and Shaw Spady and I are working on a community giving campaign because there's still some fundraising needs that need to take place, even though we're making some good success. But mostly, don't worry, we're not going to be asking you for money at the birthday party. We're just going to be celebrating and having fun and giving tours and celebrating the history. So I'll just pause there a moment and see if anyone would like to add or ask questions.
My understanding, you're going to do some work on one of the buildings as well, at the LC.
It's the pavilion.
And how will that be used predominantly?
It's a classroom.
Uh-huh.
You can share if you would like to share a little bit more about how it might be used.
Yeah, it's just, it's an area that hasn't been very effectively used, and we're really looking forward to that improvement at that particular site. That's right.
Absolutely. So I'll talk about education piece then. How's that?
Yeah.
So one of the first sort of organizations to step forward to help us, well, without Metro, it was a Metro Natures and Neighborhood Grant. Without the Metro's Neighborhood Grant, we would not have been, I think, bold enough to reach out and try to raise these resources for this restoration effort. And what that grant really requires, although it's what we desire, both as a college and a community, is to really enhance the learning opportunities there, both as it relates directly to the curriculum being offered at Clackamas Community College and also to our community education partners. But access was important, ADA upgrades were critical, and also just the use of the space itself. However, we're not waiting, and that's one of the messages I really want to get across, is we're not waiting for the restoration effort, we're already using it. Matter of fact, every Wednesday afternoon, the Water Environmental Technology class is happening over there. And it just, Jerry, I can't thank you enough for leading these cleanup efforts, you and your crew, because just after the very first cleaning, and because of the renewed use as a classroom, again, it's not as robust as it's going to become, but it's happening.
Right.
It's happening. And that's one of the dreams that I keep hearing out of this. I'll talk about the historical preservation project we're doing. But as soon as we started to open up the door and people could see in, it started to be used again. Mm-hmm. And I interrupted a couple of students and asked them, why are you here? And one was in the WET program, Water Environmental Technology program. And his lady that he was just enjoying some peace and solitude with is in our nursing program. And I gave them some space and walked around, and then I came back and they had taken some little rocks and made a heart on one of the benches that you had created there. And it just made me feel really wonderful to see so many people using it. But the pavilion is really underutilized. I would say Lakeside Hall is starting to get much more well-known amongst the college community as a meeting space and also as a classroom. But the upgrades to the pavilion, I think, will be a welcoming addition.
When I went through the Metro grant document, which I never did carefully to prepare for today's meeting when I had with you, I was looking at the grant really closely. It was very well written. I don't know who wrote that, but it must be a collaborative effort. It was very well done. But one of the points they made was that in addition to science, technology, a demonstration site for the community in terms of water quality and other issues, not for the community, for technical people as well as the community. It talked about a recreation area for the South County area. And I still believe the Environmental Learning Center and the college as a whole, along with Oregon City's Legacy Project and things that are happening in the city, such as Clackamas Cove, is a tourism asset. And it's not a big jump to look at being a recreational area to be a tourism asset. Quite often, recreation and tourism go hand in hand, And my dream is to see a tourism program evolve at Clackamas Community College, formal training program, certificate-wise or otherwise. And this week, Bob Red Mill lady pulled me aside and said, "Are we going to do that or not?" I said, "Do what?" "That tourism program." "We're in." I said, "Who's in?" "Bob and I are in."
Nice, congratulations.
So, they're a tourism asset. Why would that be?
Right.
Because they have something that people love to come enjoy, but they also show you how it's made, their product.
It's a big
And
destination.
you have all these products called students that are in different venues of learning that I think people would go to see different, things being offered in ELC could be a stop, horticulture could be a stop, maybe some of the other things that I don't know about that are being done up there that could be shown off. You got a wonderful kitchen there now, which has always been there, but now great caterers that can do fine food, good food for people to come in on a bus tour, that kind of thing. So
With our new cafe owners.
yeah, and I really want to thank Dee Dee and Doug for helping out with the cleanup too, and I know you're going to help us on Saturday.
That's right.
Anybody that wants to, we're open to that because it's it's really neat to go in there and be able to get it looking more. I hate the word kept because that's the wrong term. More in character with what it could be and was.
Well, and that's going to be, I think, that's one of the areas that we need to work on over the next year together, Jerry, because there's the restoration effort, and I'd say Jerry, but really all of us who care about that place. And Dee Dee, I remember I saw you. We met, if you remember, you were trimming the trees, and so it's good to see you again. But is we need to think about a plan to sustain the stewardship piece,
Right.
because that's what keeps community together. That's what keeps people loving that place. And if we want it to really be a tourism destination in the future, we have to find a way to be able to create a Friends of the Environmental Learning Center, or Friends of the Headwaters at the environment, whatever it might be.
Sure.
But at the end of this community giving, it's not about raising money and we're done. I think really so that the ELC never again falls into disrepair, that it stays a well-treasured, stewarded asset. We have to form some kind of friends group. Anyway, I don't want to get ahead of that, but I think that's what it's going to take. And you're absolutely right, because in this discovery process for me, and you've just been wonderful at sharing the vision, when you come onto campus, you don't know where the headwaters of Mill Creek, so we're really dealing with an identity issue here too. Here you have this beloved asset, but very few people know where it is or what does that mean. And so Shaw Spady and I were doing a walkabout Friday evening and trying really to determine where would be the best place to create some signage where we could also put together some type of learning laboratory. And I can't let the cat out of the bag too much, but there's a dream to do some type of native garden, native species garden. And it's something that we're getting into that business in horticulture. We're doing the propagation right now, so it ties literally to our curriculum development of teaching and learning. But anyone should be able to learn if it's out in a natural environment, not in a horticulture lab, right? So the idea is to bring it out of the lab and into the environmental learning center area. And so here we have this headwaters of Mill Creek at a historic environmental learning place that flows into Dual Creek Canyon, which has just celebrated the new master plan of Metro, which flows into, of course, the Willamette with their restoration. And so you're right, we should be connecting the dots, not just for tourism, but for all of us, this beautiful ecosystem that's interdependent on each other. And that little creek has to work hard. It's got to get underneath the road and going across and down. And so you imagine the cleaner and easier we make it, the better it's going to be for the entire system. So there's a lot of wins if we do this right. But the first part is obviously it's the restoration effort. And then and top of that, one of the concerns I heard from the community is, as you move forward, don't forget about the rich history. So we've started my co-chair here, we've started a historical preservation project for the Environmental Learning Center. And we're looking at ways in which we can embed that rich history into the top fabric of the ELC. And this learning garden is just one of many ideas. I believe another one came up is there's a headwater heritage forest that we're also looking at. I think that was Doug's idea. So the ideas are moving forward, and I think it's going to make it a great place. And for all kinds of educational opportunities. I've met 5 people just on Saturday who said that they had some type of skill or expertise that would like to bring it to the college for community ed. So I don't think we're going to lack in people to want to use it.
Can you tell us about next week's event, and are we invited?
Yes, you are invited. Thank you for bringing that up. So in front of you today, in the spirit of Earth Week, We are holding an open house at the Environmental Learning Center. Also, one of the sort of comments that kept bubbling out of the community was, what's going on? You know, they didn't quite, I don't know that we have done as broad enough. We've been so focused on trying to raise the money and the historical efforts, we have not done as good a job as we should, just inviting the entire community in to walk around and tour it. And now that it's looking so lovely, we thought we would invite people in for an open house to continue imprinting the process and sharing your dreams before the birthday party. So hope you all can come.
So what's the time on that?
The time on that is 2:30 to 5 p.m.
Which day?
Wednesday, April 20th. And there's going to be an all-star cast conducting tours. Quite a crew, I've heard. They know their stuff.
The Business Alliance president today asked me about this. He'd heard about this, and he wants these distributed at the Business Alliance meeting
Thank you.
on Tuesday.
Thank
So-
you. And it will be very family-friendly. We actually, Allison Heimowitz, who I'm sure many of you know, who is one of the authors behind the Beautiful Metro Grant,
Okay.
I found some of her earlier work in the childhood education pieces, so we're going to use all those little coloring books and just recycle and repurpose some of those. So it's going to be something for everybody, besides something to learn, something to color, tours, exploration, and also, again, opportunities to continue imprinting the process, which is what's important.
Kids love to color. I said kids love to color.
They do, and it has a lot of activities in it too. So, in case they can't keep up with all Jerry's historical stories, they can follow the activities in the guidebook.
Can you, yeah.
No, I think I cornered you at the ELC because I had mentioned how wonderful it would have to have a fountain up at the headwaters, and then someone else mentioned, well, that's 100,000 or more. And then I said, well, maybe if you could find some old patron or alumni that for a future down the road, that might want to make it possible to sip from the headwaters. How rare it is to have
Exactly.
headwaters anywhere, and to have a headwaters right here in Oregon City is rare. We
It
traveled
is.
to find the Columbia headwaters, and that was hard.
Absolutely,
So it's really kind of cool. That's
it was very cool. And
Very
those are the
excited about
and
DLC.
all the ideas that are coming forward are really cool, and all of them are going to stay. I mean, how and when we get to put them into play, that's up to us. That's something we do together, and that's what I keep sharing with folks. Every good idea comes forward has to have a champion to stay the journey.
It's exciting. I love that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Pleasure to be
We
here.
might have a viewing audience that has picked up on some of this too.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, very good.
So we only have one set of minutes. These are the minutes from the work session that we held in the Oregon Trail Room on October 29th. And I know you probably didn't have time to review those online because I didn't attach them online. So.
Ginger was chairman then, chairperson.
Correct.
Right? Good deal.
And we were preparing for the City Commission work session on November 10th, so we held this work session in order to prepare for that. And the upshot is summarized at the end here. Chair Redlinger summarized the presentation plan. The purpose of the meeting with the City Commission would be to enhance communication. We'd run over the NRC accomplishments in 2015. Asked the City Commission to consider adoption of our revised bylaws, which they subsequently did, and consider the NRC's questions at their annual retreat. So we did some consolidation of our work plan at that meeting, and we're going to go over that a little later. Anything to add?
Okay, I'm not sure what our policy is. I know the City Commission does not pass their minutes on work sessions, just on their council meetings. But if we want a motion, then somebody's free to put forward one.
Move that we adopt the minutes as presented.
Is there a second? I'll second it, since I was there.
Good.
All those in favor of the motion to adopt the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. With that, we are coming to old business. We've got the tree regulations piece. What have you prepared for us on this now at this point?
I don't have anything prepared for you on this.
Okay.
But is there anything that you would like me to go over with respect to tree regulations at this point? We've had some presentations on how our development review regulations work in the past. Basically, I can talk about this and come back to you with a more prepared presentation. We have 4 sets of code, essentially, that deal with trees. We have a heritage tree code. We have a public tree code that applies to trees within public spaces and rights of way. And within that is the heritage tree regulation, or the heritage tree regulation was in that section, but now it's been moved into its own chapter. And then we've got a set of tree regulations that apply strictly to development review. And then finally, we have the Natural Resources Overlay District. So those are 4 distinct separate pieces of code that deal with trees, depending on where those trees are growing. And we're going to be reviewing tonight an application for a Natural Resources Overlay District application, so we can talk a little bit more about that. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about the Heritage Tree Code. That's a newly adopted code that has been approved by you and the City Commission and Planning Commission as well. So, and that is now in effect. The one set of code that really has not been revised since, largely revised, is the Public Tree Code. That's essentially the same that has been since 2004, with a few tweaks here and there. The Development Review Regulations, or Chapter 1741, which applies to site plan and design review, land division, that sort of thing. That was revised and adopted in 2010, 2008, and then 2010. And I think that's probably the more complicated piece of code, and that's what staff uses to review tree removal and mitigation plans on private property that are going through land division and site plan and design review. At this time, there's not been any call or direction to amend any of these codes, with the exception of the Heritage Tree Code, which we already looked at.
I didn't hear you say anything about heritage groves.
Heritage
I
stands.
still-
Heritage stands.
Stands, I'm sorry. And the reason I asked is that I'm still, since we're talking about tree issues in general, I'm still trying to figure out whether Waterboard Park is considered a heritage stand, because we looked at it as a committee.
Yeah, it was
4 years
formally-
ago on another issue. We decided, I thought, that it didn't need that status since it's already a natural park. I'm talking about the hillside. So-
The park itself is a designated stand.
It's a
or
designated,
grow- or
who
grow.
did that designation?
This came up before, and I was trying to recall it coming before the commission as a designation. I didn't recall it was. Maybe it was.
It was.
Okay.
That's where that designation came
Okay,
from.
so you guys-
Yeah.
Okay. So I wasn't clear on that. Okay.
Yeah, I can come back
Right.
with the minutes on that meeting.
Is that the
Yeah.
only heritage stand in Oregon City at this time?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So what you
Yeah.
might have heard, or presenter speak to, was Shelley, was that a number of us, I'll let you tell them about it. The Heritage Grove up the college.
Well, you brought it up, so you're the one who
Okay,
originally
well, there's
brought it
that
up. Go
grove
ahead.
of Oregon White Ash that borders between Oregon City Senior High School and the campus. And I think, Doug, you've done some investigation. It seems like some of it's in college, but most of it's in
In
high
high
school
school
district?
or in private ownership.
Okay.
A lot of it towards Newell Creek is towards Beaver Creek is
Beaver Creek.
actually apparently under private ownership.
Okay. But it's almost contiguous Oregon White Ash with an understory of violets and things like that that are very unique to it, you know?
Is
And,
this on the
reason
far
we-
side of the parking
Huh?
lot? Is this on the far side of the parking lot by the trail between the high school?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I drove around to look, and I went, that's the only
Near where
place
the
I
power
could.
lines are,
Mhm,
across.
yeah.
And the deal was, we thought, in conjunction with the college's 50th year celebration, could they consider us somehow us working with them or whoever, getting that set aside as a heritage stand. Set aside meaning identified. And Florence Lee, this goes way back, she was a botany instructor up there and a biology instructor up at the college. Very, very sharp lady. She was, anybody touched that thing, they were executed. I mean, it was. She kept it very serious. They did transects in there of little quadrangles that they did studies of the flora in each area and all that. And it's never received protection. And we suggested that something happened. Maybe this committee nominated. And you talked about Greater Oregon City Watershed, didn't you, Council, doing it or something? Somehow we jointly nominated.
You know, it came up, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd like to see us move forward with that. I mean, under new business or something.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
volunteer to help put all the paperwork together.
I think to get we can. I don't think we can make recommendations for trees that are on private land, but we can make recommendations in other areas.
City
To what that path is probably in the ownership predominantly of the high school, and and so it may not be that hard to get segments of it designated through the high school.
If we get to the high school on that one, that'll open up some of the other
Yes.
grounds too, because Easton's, I've worked on that one. I'm working on it a second time now, but there's several schools that I think if we get one that we can open up. There's another small grove standing at the St. John Cemetery of White Oak, and there's 3 of them that really want to do it, and 3 of them that are scared to death because they're afraid that there'll be fees on the back end. I don't know why. They're just afraid later are we going to have fees for having heritage trees. There's some fears out there that are real that you just can't say, no, you'll never be charged for anything again when they go, I mean. But these things will open up doors.
Well,
And-
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to see us form a work group or something.
Yeah.
Keep this thing moving forward, because the college, I think, is interested, and I think we could approach the school district, and Dee Dee, you're on fire about it. And
Yeah, I'll be happy
the
to.
interesting
I got
thing
3
was
other projects
Shelley
on
wasn't willing
too.
to say where it's been considered to have the so-called native garden, but it would
Mm-hmm.
overlook, and you'd look to the south and you'd see that. And then you'd see all the LC. Then you'd see the community gardens. And then you'd see the Home Orchard Society from this viewpoint, which is just a little bit higher than anything else around there. So it would make a logical thing.
You so
And you could
totally
see
tie
where the
that.
headwaters really were.
Right. You can so tightly tie that into the Oregon gardens and stuff.
Yeah.
Tourism
Yeah.
really can see that.
So I guess my question would,
Yeah.
who would be on the work group? You
I'll be on the work
You'll
group.
lead it?
I don't know how to lead that one. How about if you point me and I'll step. You say step,
I'm
Dee Dee,
glad
and
to
I'll
work with
fetch
you
it.
on
And,
it then.
okay.
You know?
I mean, I have 3 projects I'm already working on, which will be fine because I can put that one in with the other 3.
Probably
And-
one of the best things to do initially is to talk to the superintendent of the Oregon City School District.
Yeah.
Eventually would probably have to go to their, I would imagine, their board to actually
Yeah,
do something
I've
like that.
actually been working on that. I kind of walked in and got a card of person I could start
Yeah.
to work my way through a board meeting. Because
If you have staff behind it, it's a lot easier for the
yeah, it
board.
sure does, and then practice some step up questions that they're going to ask. I mean, I thought, well, I'll just try my first presentation, and there's 3 questions. I just kind of just went and stumbled, and they were all money. And
Since I've sat through a lot of those and presented at a lot, feeling old at the moment, I'd be happy to help
yay,
put that together. I'm
Yeah.
happy with
That's
that.
right.
I know those
You
people
put
that
the
are
information
helpful.
together, we'll put it together as a nice
There you go.
presentation.
kind of a
and
10-point bulletin. What are the 10
Yeah, we
most
can-
top
We
questions?
can do
yeah.
that and then get you up there, and then I'll sit behind you and go.
Yeah, I rehearse it a few times. I can
I'll
I
go
can
with
pitch anything, but I got to get the facts down and rehearse it.
Pete, we don't have to do it at this meeting, but maybe at the next meeting, if you could bring forward the overlays for wetlands and water, because a lot of this area is in wetlands that are designated wetlands.
Natural resources,
So
yeah.
if you can bring forward that map, it might be beneficial. And also, if you could have the property line designations, so we know how many private property owners might be.
Because we might even just, wouldn't hurt to drop off a little application to each one of those. Say, we'll do the paperwork for you if you sign it and be part of that grove.
Good idea.
But neighborhood associations up there too. Maybe we can pitch the neighborhood association.
Good.
Okay, very good.
And just to turn you in, since we're pushing so forward on this, let's jump on it quickly because I'm going to be gone for the month of May. God, so I don't want to like start this and then go, where'd she go?
Yeah, very good.
You've been appointed for lifetime service.
Now, in terms of the update on the ELC, is there anything other than the presentation here that you wanted to bring up?
Well, what happened was when David Evans and Associates started to actually review the file, they noticed that there was a threshold in the original master plan for the college that the proposal exceeded. And the original proposal was they couldn't exceed their existing building footprint of 38,000 square feet. And there was a slight increase in the wetland boundary because of conditions changing in the soil. And subsequently, the regulation that kicks in when that is in effect is the applicant can either choose to use the old standard or the current city code. And the applicant wanted to use the current city code, which is what you already reviewed and heard about, the current city code. When you read that city code, it talks about a cumulative disturbance area of 500 square feet. And beyond that, it is a planning commission review, and it did exceed 500 square feet with the pathways and the canopy and that sort of thing, mostly with respect to some of the pathways that were not considered exempt from the regulation. So the other thing that triggered the threshold being exceeded was the amphitheater itself, which is a necessary part of the thing. So this is largely a procedural issue in my mind. It doesn't change the impact on the resource, but it does trigger review at the Planning Commission level. Subsequently, we've renoticed it for April 25th to go before the Planning Commission. Mm-hmm. So they'll be hearing it. We're writing the report. We're going to get David Evans and Associates' recommendation very soon, and I fully expect that it will go forward and be supported by the Planning Commission with that slight change. Yeah. Yeah.
And we're talking about, of course, the engineering too of the facility,
Absolutely.
and that is what is also coming before the Planning Commission.
Everything will be
Everything
part
will be
of
on
it.
it.
Yeah, the stormwater findings that the Public Works Department will be making, included in the staff report. That includes the runoff coming from the improved parking lot, which has 25 spaces, and so the gravel area that's parking area today is going to be part of the new impervious surface calculation, and as those areas are going to drain into swales, vegetated swales that are being designed according to the new stormwater standards that we have. Yeah, and they'll drain through that system into the system that they have. So that will be part of the review. In fact, Public Works review is limited to drainage and grading in accordance with those new standards. Most of the code was locked in place in 2007 when the master plan was approved. So with the exception of this natural resources issue being a type 3 review, everything else is based on the prior code. Yeah. And because it's tied to the grant and the timing of the funding and the need to do it,
just because
Yeah.
the Type 3 is a staff review, essentially.
Type 3 is a planning commission
Planning
decision
commission
with a staff
decision. Okay.
recommendation. Yeah, yeah. Type 2 is a staff review.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what it was before.
Does it ultimately have to go to the City Commission or not?
No, just planning commission.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. So the other thing, they wanted to do this now, bearing in mind that they will be coming in and amending the master plan for the entire campus because of the bond. and the Phase 1 building and all of the larger improvements that are triggered with that improvement. This is not part of that, and is not going to trigger those big street improvement issues and things like that. Yeah. Okay, that's the update on ELC. If you want to come on April 25th and voice your support, you're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Coming into new business, review the natural resource 16001 type 3 NROD application for single-family land of record, and we're going to get a picture.
Yes, we have a presentation for it.
And I assume this is why Laura is here.
No, this
There's no
Laura's
one.
just here to listen
Oh, well, thank you.
and maybe talk.
I have a great suggestion. So,
1 second. Let me get this. Lights down.
Yeah, it's not up there. It's just, we're not going to get anything. No, you can sit down.
No input. Stand. Let's try that. Oh, it's the laptop select. Thanks.
There we go. Something's happening. There we go.
This one?
Yeah, flip it. You got to flip that there to the right, I think.
I sent the dates for the Oregon City School Board meetings for the rest of this year. For us to look at.
You sent it to
I
her?
sent it to everybody already.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got the board minutes have been sent to us.
By
for
email.
the school
Oh.
By
board.
Ginger.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to look it up now.
thank you. I'm just trying to keep my other. No, mine didn't.
If you go.
Bear with us.
I'm a lefty.
And it's. I thought so too.
This is going to be built next to the tennis courts.
Should we take a 5-minute?
Mhm.
Should we take a 5-minute recess?
We hope. We could only hope. You know.
Laura, I don't know if everybody knows if you want to come up here, and,
Yeah.
because of course you're familiar, but I don't know if everybody knows your new position or not.
It's very tall. Good evening, Laura Turway. I'm the interim planning manager for the City of Oregon City, and I'm just here
Good deal.
to touch base and
Wonderful.
say hello and see how things are going and support Pete. So any
A lot of support.
any questions you have for the planning division, we're here to help the city in any way that we can. Any suggestions for anything that we could do different is always welcome.
I just would let you know that everybody, I think, here feels that over the last couple of years, I think there were some tensions earlier on, a couple of years, before time, in terms of how we're involved and so forth. And I think it's been from my side, you've been here probably longer than anybody else, but
Sounds pretty easy.
I think it's made a great deal of difference,
Yeah.
reaching out to the Planning Commission to work with us and through Pete and so forth. I think it's been a very positive relationship.
That's great.
And that wasn't the case a few years back, I know that.
Yes, that's true.
That is great to hear. And I would also have to thank the Natural Resource Committee and Pete as well for all of your work on the Heritage Tree Code, and all of the things that you've been working on are very, very helpful. And it's been nice to see the spread of information and the attention that's been paid to natural resources in the city. As far as the other meetings and groups that we attend, there has been a lot more information out about what's been going on and the projects that you've been working on. So it's been great to have nice partnerships and sort of connect the dots and network a little bit and share our resources.
So what does interim planning manager mean versus planning director? What is the difference?
We don't have a planning manager or a director. So Tony Conkle is our community development director, and he is also the city manager.
Okay.
So I've just been appointed interim planning manager to sort of help out with daily tasks of the planning division while he's off working on city manager stuff. So
is he still functioning as city administrator and planning director?
how many hats does he wear? I swear.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
It's very, very nice to.
You were mentioning earlier the website and stuff was changing. What regards? Just curiosity. Like, are you just totally reformatting? I mean, what's changing exactly?
Great question. Everything. So a lot of the content will remain, and we want to make sure that we're sifting through all of our content to get rid of any outdated things and make sure that everything that is on our website is valuable and up to date. But the city is working on a project to change the look of the website. In the planning department realm, we are so excited to share so much information with the public that we post a ton of stuff on our website. And it's great if you know which sub button to click to get to it. And so we want to be better. We want to always think of ways to improve and make sure that the information is out there. And the second part of that is that it's easy to access or easy to find. So the whole website for the city, which is www.orcd.org, is getting reimagined in a way, and we're sort of changing our mindset of how people use the website, and they've formed a community committee to look at it, including people who've never seen the website before, a lot of people who have, or people from different points of view, to see what people want when they access the website and what's missing from the website that ought to be there and things like that. So it's a good city project, and I'm not sure what the timing is on that, but it's not tomorrow, I can tell you that. It's going to be a long, thoughtful work in progress. Yeah.
Exciting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, thank you.
As a CIC, you guys interrelate quite often with public noticing and things like that. Citizen Involvement Committee. Is that getting sorted out? It sounded like it was problematic. Is it getting better now, or?
It's great, actually. So the CIC, the administration of the Citizen Involvement Committee has moved from the city manager's office to the planning division, and so I'm the liaison for CIC. In the past year, we've codified the CIC, so we want to recognize the importance of citizen involvement to the city, and we want to put them in our city code, right, like the NRC is. And so we've done that, and we've created a work plan. And right now we are on the tail end of finishing our public information plan. So we're created a subcommittee at the CIC to figure out how to get people to both neighborhood association meetings and to the CIC meetings. And not only that, but how do we really create a genuine avenue for two-way information so we can hear what people are saying and tell them what we're doing. You pay for us, so you should know what you're getting, right? And all of the good products that we're working on, and sometimes those don't always get advertised out there. But we want to know what are good things that are happening so we can make those good things happen other places, or what are some concerns that people have. So this is a good first step to activate neighborhood associations. The next project that we're starting to work on but haven't quite started yet, but we will next month, is working on a plan for how to support neighborhood associations, so some type of booklet or information to make sure that when people change chairs, that there's a flow of information and that there's a base of guide of information that chairs can learn from. So maybe like interesting topics. So Neighborhood Association recently had someone from the city come and speak about their water bill and sort of decoding what it means. And it was really useful, and they got a good turnout because people wanted to know that. But we didn't, you know, it was taking those steps to figure out what people want to know, and then also how to really convey that information back to the city and make sure there is a return on that information, and they understand that we've taken it and we're doing something with it. So it's really good, actually. It's great.
Good.
All right.
All right,
Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, sorry about the delay. Thank you, Laura, for filling in. So, as your bylaws state, the Natural Resources Committee, one of your responsibilities is to review applications within the Natural Resources Overlay District, and those types of land use applications which potentially affect natural resources. And so, just give you a little background on this application. This file number is Natural Resource, or NR 16-01. It is a Type 3 Natural Resources Overlay District review, and I'll explain why. It is in the Park Place neighborhood and I'll show you where it is. This is what they call a lot of record, a pre-existing lot of record, 0.11 acre, 5,000 square feet. And when we look at the next property map, you'll see in more detail what this is illustrating. The address on the property is 16348, which is directly in the middle of your screen here. You'll notice that the purple boundary is the Natural Resources Overlay District boundary, and the stream location that we have in the center of that. And then you'll see a mapped wetland area, which is the brown shaded area within that, right next to the blue line.
So this must be in Park Place?
This is in Park Place, between Hiram and Front Street. Mostly in an area of existing single-family residential development with some vacant parcels affected by the Natural Resources Overlay District. A lot of the construction and development in this area preceded the current code, and for that reason, there is a provision in the current Natural Resources Code which allows for limited development for existing lots of record that fall entirely within the NROD, and this lot falls entirely within the NROD. And when that situation occurs, the code allows for a maximum disturbance area, and I'll go into what that means in a little more detail. So currently the site, Currently, the site is vacant. It abuts Frederick Street, and the dark shaded area there of Frederick Street means that it's unimproved right-of-way. It's either gravel or maybe some asphalt, but it doesn't come up to current city standard. Frederick Street south of there has some paving and that sort of thing, and you can access it, and that is currently a maintained street.
So this blue thing that flows through here, what is that?
That is if you go out and you look at the site, I'll show you.
Okay.
I've got some photos of it. Let me jump ahead to the photos so you can see what it looks like.
So it's basically a channelized stream.
It's a channelized stream. It's got concrete on one side, and it's been channelized a long time ago. There's the channel on the edge, but it's still considered a wetland under our local wetland inventory, which was done in 1999. It doesn't meet the criteria for a locally significant wetland, I believe, but this is still under review by the David Evans and Associates, which is our water resource consultant. So let me jump back to the description of the project. The applicant was proposing to construct a single-family residence. The house would occupy 1,032 square feet, and the driveway and sidewalk and rear patio would occupy 468 square feet. and that is under the 1,500 square foot allowance threshold for a lot of record. Code also requires in these situations a minimum setback of 25 feet from the ordinary high water mark or the top of bank. And a setback of less than 25 feet from that resource requires a type 3 review. And so that's what's triggering. Description of the resource, it's a perennial stream. They identified that. It flows from east to west along the northern property boundary. The applicant's consultant refers to it as Ferguson Street Creek, but I don't know that that's a correct name. I don't think it has a name. It's referred to as PP3D on the Shapiro Wetland Inventory, which is the inventory that the city uses. According to the municipal code, typically a perennial stream in a wetland requires a 50-foot vegetated corridor, except in the situation we have, which is a lot of record situation. Not listed as locally significant in Table 5 of the Shapiro report. This is the delineation submitted by the applicant, which shows the extent of the Shapiro wetland test plots, which are, and I'm sorry for the resolution on this, but there is a larger map in the materials that you're welcome to come and take a look at. We have not sent this out for public notice yet. We're going to send it out for public notice on Friday. And then the test pits that the applicant has dug are listed as SPs, I believe.
So all the SPs are test pits or PPs? What are PPs?
They are actually, I think those delineate the Shapiro wetland segment in the city's inventory. Sorry. So this is the site plan for the property that was submitted. It's to scale, 1 inch equals 10 feet, you know, if it was on a piece of paper. It shows where the footprint of the house is in relation to the top of bank, and a 17-foot setback from the top of bank, and that's what triggers a type 3 review, since it's less than the 25-foot minimum.
So what kind of what does that type 3 versus just the regular?
Sorry.
Yeah.
What that means in land use process language is it's a discretionary review. It requires a planning commission decision and a vote by a quorum of the planning commission, as opposed to if it was a type 2 review, staff would review it based on the code, based on the criteria, and we can only approve what is in the code.
I got you.
Which is 25 foot.
Yep.
1,500 square feet. So this difference between 17 foot and 25 foot triggers a type 3 review. Yeah.
I mean, with the concrete wall we saw is on the lower portion on their side of the property, basically.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't imagine, given the nature of that creek, there's much. Even though it has a wetland designation, there's probably not that much that occurs in terms of wetland vegetation or anything of that nature.
Yeah, we haven't seen the results from David Evans Associates yet, so they will be able to confirm whether or not there's a wetland condition to right now.
Is there any when they were asking for a reduction of 25 feet? Is there any kind of mitigation that can occur with that kind of setback that might actually improve the 17 feet that is there compared to the 25 feet, which doesn't really have much?
Right. Let me go into the mitigation.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's okay.
I was just trying to get you the slide.
So the mitigation process, there's two options in the code. There's the option where you're removing large trees in a natural area, or you have a bare property where you're basically calculating the amount of your impact area within the NROD, which in this case is 1,500 square feet, And the code requires that you provide twice as much mitigation area as impact area, which is 3,000 square feet. And then based on that 3,000 square feet, there's just a spacing of plants required, and you calculate how many plants you're required to plant. In this case, they've proposed planting 15 trees and 50 shrubs. I don't know if David Evans and Associates will agree with that number. They're going to check it and make sure it meets code, and they may say that does or it doesn't. So we haven't seen the results of that yet.
That
Yeah.
15 and so forth, 50 shrubs, if that's the landowner's desire?
Well, that's we will check it to make sure it meets the minimum
I
required.
mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
aggressive. I'm impressed.
Yeah. So along with that, there's a plan requirement as well, and a narrative description required to show that there's no impact to the potential for fish spawning and that sort of thing. In this section of the creek, I don't believe there are.
This
any.
creek
Yeah.
links to what? The Clackamas or to Abernathy or what?
It won't go to Abernathy, no.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that it would.
Flows
No, it
down
won't.
the bluff into Abernathy Creek, I believe. But I could be wrong there. Doug, what do you think?
This is
You may
heading-
be right.
It's heading toward-
It's at the top. It's going to come down Holcomb into
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
probably
by
right.
the.
You're probably right.
This is overlooking Apperson,
Correct.
sort of. Apperson
Yeah,
overlooked the
it
old
probably
huge.
does.
Yeah.
Flat.
I should have zoomed
Probably
out
does.
more to show you where it actually flows, but flows from. if you go-
In the description you just had about salmonids and so forth, is there obstructions to salmonids even getting there?
There probably are further
Yeah.
down. I don't know.
Would they be asked to consider that? Or would
No,
you be
they're,
asked?
they're only required to mitigate what they impact on their property.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it says the unimproved Fredericks Street, and that's where the concrete driveway's coming
Yeah,
through.
you'll notice that
I
it
drove down
goes
there.
into a storm pipe underneath
Well,
the road.
yeah,
and then-
but there was
yeah.
like, looks
Yeah.
like part of the whole
Sorry, let me
yard
go
was
back up
planted
there.
into the,
Yeah.
you can't even tell where, at one point the street just disappears into people's backyards. But up a half a block, there's a great big yummy cedar that kind of hangs in the street.
Well, again, this blue thing that flows
Yeah,
through.
that does.
Yeah.
It's an open channel. So
Okay.
yeah, across that section of Frederick, and then it goes into a storm pipe under Front Street, not Frederick. So
Okay, so this
Yeah.
blue thing I see on my aerial,
yeah, that's-
what is that?
That's a stream. It's a
that's
stream
the
within
stream corridor with 50
And there
foot
goes in-
buffers? Okay.
Typically, yes.
And there's a
On either
culvert
side, okay.
then
Thank you.
Yeah.
in the road?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's see. Going into mitigation plan.
Wow.
Okay. So this isn't super high resolution either, I apologize, but this indicates 2 zones of planting. Area A, which is right next to within the ordinary high water mark, where they're going to be putting plugs and saplings and those kinds of riparian things. And then the area B, which is the darker crosshatched area outside of the ordinary high water mark, which will take up most of the north side of the yard, which will be planted in more upland species. So they're planting 15 trees and 90 shrubs in that area. And this will become protected by a restrictive covenant as part of the title of the property. So if the property changes hands in the future, any subsequent property owner would know that that area is a mitigation area for the natural resource overlay district.
Now, how big was the
Yeah.
lot again, size-wise?
5,000 square
5,000,
feet.
okay.
Yeah. A lot of the lots up there were platted at 5,000 square feet, and even though they're zoned R6, which is 6,000 square foot lot minimum, but they're allowed to use the same setbacks as an R6 zone because they're pre-existing lots of
Okay.
record.
Who did this rendering?
This was done by the applicant's wetland consultant, and the name escapes me for the moment.
Okay.
But
So
the
that
way
is-
the process works is their consultant turns in the application, and then the city's wetland consultant reviews that
Yeah.
to make sure it meets code.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they've spent some effort on this, haven't they? Little money, too.
For a single-family home, it's quite a
Yeah.
quite a significant application. It's a lot of work to put together
Right.
this, which is why, to the extent possible, the applicant has drawn some of the site planning themselves, but the parts that have to be completed by an expert, like this,
Yeah.
that's required to be done by a water resource specialist or an ecologist who's qualified to, A, do the delineation according to the Corps of Engineers methodology, and then put together a mitigation plan and planting plan that meets code. That's not something that your average homeowner is permitted to do unless they're qualified that way. And I believe,
So with the mitigation going out into Frederick Street Road, then they're basically not opening up Frederick Street? Are you trying to keep it
You
as...
mean if they're doing street improvements
Yeah.
abutting the property? Let me go back.
Because they're coming through in an area that's completely undeveloped.
Yeah.
Right.
Wonder
So
how
the
they're doing it.
portion that they would have to improve or pay fee in lieu for improvements on Frederick Street is, let's see, it's not quite touching the resource, but that,
So it'd come off Clear Street, coming in that way?
I think they're planning to access off of,
Yeah.
Coming Fredericks that
yeah,
way?
that actually ends right there at the
Yeah.
property, because then the creek turns and goes north before it goes
Okay,
west
because
there,
I
so-
was looking
yeah,
at
it
here, and I
can't-
was thinking it was this
yeah,
property
it doesn't
here.
connect through down here. It's this one here.
Yeah.
Okay, there's trucks
Just-
parked there.
Yep.
I couldn't get down there.
but we will
totally
need to
from
look
the
at
wrong
that.
stuff.
We don't know what improvements are actually going to be required on Frederick. They may be doing what they call fee in lieu of improvements, and then, but we will need to look at that to see whether or not there's any additional impact area. But since it's in public right-of-way and not on a private lot, that's going to be something the Public Works Department is going to have to look at, yeah. Mm. Yeah. I think to the extent practicable, they're going to need to, access the house from the, let's see, site plan. Driveway's on the south side of
Okay,
the
well,
property.
there's a
so
pickup truck parked right
Yep.
there.
15-foot
So-
driveway and a 5-foot setback, so about 20 foot of access on Frederick.
I'm just amazed that, I'm glad this is happening, but I'm amazed that this much effort's going into a ditch. It's nice to see it, and you have the authority to require it, right? The city does?
Yeah, there's various ways you can, you can go through a process. You can go through a process to get a development approved
Yep.
with impact and mitigation and that sort of thing. You can go through the same process to prove that a resource no longer exists or isn't supposed to be there. And in this case, the applicant chose to go the development route rather than to prove that the resource no longer has the values.
Right.
That's what we review.
Yeah.
We're not reviewing an exemption request or a verification request. We're essentially reviewing a modification request. Yeah.
Well, it's a kind of a nice demonstration project, I guess, of
Um,
a new intent.
That's,
Okay. That's what I'm seeing
when
here.
they're done and the plantings are done, and
Yeah.
and then there's a 4-year monitoring period afterward. They're required to provide a monitoring plan for 4 years.
Hmm.
And if at the end of the 4 years, there's less than 80% establishment, they have to replant and make sure that it's at 80% at the end of 4 years. So but there's a year-to-year monitoring requirement.
And who does that monitoring? Is it
The
planning?
owner's responsible
Okay.
for
And
that.
did they provide you guys with reports, or?
They're supposed to provide us with reports, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what's our role?
Well,
It's
I think you can comment on it if you wish to now, or comment individually. I'm not. it's, phew. This is that issue we're dealing with the timing of the notice. The notice will go out on Friday.
All right.
But we have a newspaper notice that's been published today, so, the notice period is open.
Wow.
Yeah. We have to provide notice 20 days in advance of a public hearing. So
So this
Yeah.
public hearing would be next month then.
it'll be May 9th. Yeah.
It just seems like a teachable moment
Mhm.
in the light of Ginger being an educator, that for the public at large, here's somebody that didn't choose to fight and discredit something, even though it's a ditch, and instead decided to enhance the ditch in front of their property.
Mhm.
And it seems
Yeah.
like it's a
Yeah.
neat,
Yeah. It's a
Approach.
It's a good approach.
and I'd like to see it,
Yeah.
endorsed and somehow written up.
Yeah, maybe Park Place can use some
You-
help up there
you know,
too.
Even
Some
even if
extra
it's a ditch, there might be habitat above it, and there may be habitat below it, and actually having a vegetative corridor,
Yeah.
shading it and so forth may have
agree.
value
I
beyond
agree.
that
I
piece
agree.
of section.
So if you wish to make a motion to either support it or that's up to the committee.
I don't-
Mm.
I would make a motion, I guess, that we support the project because of its demonstration and advocacy attitudes presented, and that somehow the project be showcased as it develops. That's what I'd like to see for others, but that's my motion.
That's up to Doug.
Your second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very good.
Thank you.
And I think I know where this creek starts, up on Swan Avenue, doesn't it?
Gosh, I don't know what the head was. I believe you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I can tell you that the folks up there, not anything against them, had nothing but bad things to say about that creek for a long time.
Still there. Well, that's the nature of these things.
But it was a bad ditch, and I said we should vegetate this, and they were fighting the berry vines. I said, once we got the berry vines, what's your next plan? And they said, we don't have a plan. We want to cover it up, fill it up. I said, don't do that. You'll get in trouble.
I think it is interesting.
You would get in trouble.
I mean, speaking candidly, without looking at any application, you have development coming in and enhancing a resource,
Yeah.
whereas there's oftentimes there's more benign neglect going on when there isn't development. And so it's interesting.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens to the two lots next to it.
Approach that. Yeah.
And then the loss of the street. That's, I can see feuds over the street more than.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very instructional, actually. Very much so.
Well, I should have mentioned that. Sorry, I meant to mention this, but the trees that are growing on the property right now are fruit trees.
Fruit trees?
Yeah, orchard trees. There's like 6 or 7 of them that are there. And
They'll remain or they'll go?
well, some of them they're in the footprint of the house.
Oh, it looks
So,
like the photo
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
and then, but they will require mitigation, and according to the code. Yeah.
You're not going to require them to build a house around the fruit tree?
Well, we encourage that, but
There's
we
a
can't require it.
vacant lot on 12th and Main that I was being asked to figure out how to landscape with young people or whatever. And there's a tree right in the middle of the, you know what I'm talking about, in the middle of the car sales, Weiler Chevrolet's car sales building. And it grew up, I don't know, 20-inch diameter tree? I don't know, tree of heaven, no less, right through the building.
Yeah. Well, there used to be a tree at heaven.
And
right
the
there.
county's going to re-landscape that, or, that parking lot properly. And anyway.
That will go on to communications?
Well, we have one more thing.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, yeah, review, yeah.
So back in January 13th, we had edited our work plan, and when I went and looked at it and I accepted all the red line changes that we made, I just wanted to bring this back before you as a clean copy so that you can see it. What I did was I took off all the red line changes and I added the city commission goal in a separate column on the left, so it's a little bit easier to read because it used to be all combined in the NRC responsibility column. And then just wanted to go through this with you, and we can take a look at it. So under our responsibility number 1, which is promoting community involvement in natural resources conservation, that aligns with the City Commission Goal 4, which is to seek opportunities to maintain communications with citizens and facilitate citizen participation. Under Goal 4, there is also the Willamette Falls Legacy Project and advancing the waterfront master plan. So we had listed those under our responsibilities as well. The activities related to those we have are conducting the natural resources tour. I wanted to confirm that we are still doing that or not, because I wasn't sure about that
Yeah.
one.
I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
With the committee's help.
Okay.
I'd like to see us do it again. When is the question?
Yeah.
Fall, I think.
Okay.
I don't know.
The only other one I had a question on.
What we did was we got the trolley van, we'd have to get a bus now, and you paid for the bus last time, somehow you guys did.
Mm-hmm.
Blue Star, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Bus line? And we did about a 3-hour tour of enhancement areas and things underway and showcasing various things. I thought it was kind of good. Anybody here on the committee that was with us on that? You were, weren't you, Doug?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
But it was a neat deal to get people out
Yeah.
with us to see projects.
Yeah.
Oh, Foliage and Heritage Tour, I
Yeah.
think it was called.
I'd be willing to work on that again.
The second activity is preparing educational materials about street trees for distribution to the public. That's something that staff is working on. And we already have that on our website. So as Laura mentioned, we're still trying to improve our website and get the materials out in a fashion that's a lot more readable and accessible. So we'll be doing that ongoing. 1C, developing signage for improved public awareness of natural resources. Examples, streams and trees, development sites, and heritage sites. We don't have a lead on this one or a timeline yet.
Would you like that to be somebody within this group?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd sure like to see us do that.
And we're developing signage.
Well, I think, Doug, do you want to talk to that?
I had recommended early on, and looking at it in terms of the next budget cycle, which I guess would start next year, to actually give signage on the major roads that streams go underneath. I think a lot of people just, including myself,
Right,
this
don't
one stream
realize
we
what's
saw
going
here,
on and what we're driving over.
what they are. So to have that kind of a signage on the streams, and that's what I had recommended.
Okay.
Good idea. Very good.
Um,
Very good.
All right, so I have this little idea. I'm just going to share it now so I don't forget it. That we come up, the little library movement, that people are putting little library boxes. For
Yeah.
people to, well, we could do like little NRC, little Oregon City boxes, in a similar vein, and then have pictures of trees or whatever it is, if it's a water site or whatever it is, and people could open it up and find information about
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's
And the box, you
actually
open it
on
up
the route
and-
somewhere.
on a route somewhere.
Yeah, okay.
And then we can make a map where all the little boxes are, and then it could be like,
Right.
little NRC library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be
Good
neat.
idea.
I've seen those. We open it up and there's little trivia questions inside.
Yeah,
And
and the front of it could be the logo,
Yeah.
the city logo, but, it's kind of, carved wood or something.
Where could you see a little library demo idea? Like
there's
this
one right over by on the turn as you're coming up Oregon City High School, and the turn where that giant tree is on the corner.
Yeah.
Right across kitty corner from that tree. Just there's a little library right there, free library right there.
What's that
Sometimes
about?
they look, they
Well, they're
just
cute.
look like little kiosks,
Oh.
or sometimes they just look like little boxes on posts.
So
There's
it's where you can look up information there at
Yeah.
that site.
And you can go on websites. It's
So
a national
then you have
organization.
then you have to have a big sign to mention that's what it is because I didn't know what it was either.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, it's a national registry, and you can choose to make your own, or you can join them and be a numbered little house.
And maybe we can make that like
And
the
they-
next viral thing that.
Right, they
these
have
little-
poetry boxes too, and
Yeah,
so this would be
right.
similar to that.
Hmm.
Um,
And then we can share it with other cities, and they can come up with their own, and we can put them on the same registry, and.
You know, we can actually connect that to our website too,
Mm-hmm.
because I was thinking if we had something where we could quick ID trees
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
on our things, and oh, that's what that tree looks like, and oh, it has all the specific. I can print that, and put it in my file with that tree
Maybe
that I'm
we could
nominating. But
Partner with the library board.
Yeah, partner with the library board, and you also partner with the construction class at Oregon City High School that loves to do
Yeah.
Oregon City
Yeah.
projects.
Mhm.
That's a great idea.
Mhm.
Does that mean your name's going to go on that slot?
Sure.
Well, I will help.
I'll help you with that too. That
Yeah, I'm
seems
sure
so
I'm
cool.
sure you get some support on that.
Well, and
including
Dee
me.
Dee, you were talking about having us have a booth or some
Yeah,
exposure at farmers market.
Farmers market once
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
a month. Jackie offers a booth, and I'm doing it for the Oregon City Parks Foundation in the morning. So I'm a morning person. So if you volunteer, say, "Oh, Dee, you'll do the morning," because I'm a morning person. But I'd be happy to do that because it's a
Well-
great way to spend Saturday mornings.
Farmers market will be added as a separate line, a separate
idea.
activity.
Good
I
idea.
mean,
Yeah.
each thing we suggest, we need to put on our work plan or,
Mhm.
um,
Along with that, I don't know if this is the time to bring it up or not, but I just kind of noticed that when I go to different things, I see a lot of you all here too. So many people wear so many different hats. That it kind of make you want to feel like you want to throw a badge on yourself, saying I'm with the NRC or I'm with the PPNP or the CIC, or you have people have stickers all over. But I kind of thought maybe if we had like a slogan or something, and I'm doing something myself. I'm going to suggest it maybe it would work with the NRC, and that's a slogan of one tree, one family once a year. Meaning nominate a tree, clean a tree of ivy, somebody save, plant, or love a tree. Just one tree, one person,
Wow.
or one family once a year. It's harder than you think. I'm trying to get one tree to take clean up. I can't contact the owner. I'm in their house 15 times, but it's right on 7th Street. It's right next to Eastham School, so I'm thinking a little bit of happiness, a little bit of shame, all at the same time, One person, one tree. It looks small, and it's so grassroots that I think those are the kind of things that you can give a sticker to somebody. They said, we're going to clean our tree in our yard. Well, here, take a sticker and put it on your car. Again, just something so simple. And then if we're going to, all right, one more thing. And if we're going to like showcase, get our logo out there, see what we're doing, T-shirts or badges or something really simple, like these people that are going out of their way to do the planting along Ferguson Creek there. Maybe if we're profiling them in a little newspaper, we can give them a sticker to put on their car. Again, one person, they did this for 17 trees, or something where we can publicize it, make them a local hero, a local lord. You can put OC initials in it.
Sounds like that's kind of under maybe goal 4 or goal 5 of what you're talking about.
Well, you're talking about when we were. Yeah, I probably should have just waited until we got.
No,
to
that's
that.
okay. That's okay.
Right, but I'm just not sure where. Do we have to develop these funds ourselves? Is that just something we get grants for? Because we can use old voter signs, or
Well,
we can
no,
wear
I
a
guess it
T-shirt
should
that
be under.
says the
I
same
guess it
thing.
should be under go up there. where
But
we're talking
something
about.
if we're somewhere we could stuff that little sign and then we take it with us when we go home. But someone will
Let's,
say, what in the heck's that for? Oh, well,
Let's
here we go.
flesh this out.
Okay.
What, I
And,
guess,
uh,
yeah.
And then decide which ideas we like the most, I think, because we have, a lot of ideas which are good ones. And then, in terms of funding and that sort of thing, we probably have to have the discussion once we've decided on what it is we want to do. But, yeah.
Did we get onto it, and I may be missing it, did we get onto it? It's not unrelated to what she was saying, but probably broader in terms of our focus, in terms of getting the information about designating heritage trees. I'm sure most people don't know that's possible. Is that on this list?
No, it is not. We should
I
add it.
think that's, and then all those things of the tree and so forth, of a one
Yeah.
that's really designated, could showcase it as well.
Advanced Public Awareness of Heritage Tree Program.
Because at this point, you just roughly have how many people have put up their trees for heritage trees. There haven't been that many, I don't think.
No, they haven't.
I'm kind of making it my mission to go to each neighborhood meeting and pitch it. I'm just pitching it with my own right now, but just to hand out applications, and if any one person can suggest their tree, their neighbor's tree, they can get back the application signed, and we'll do the footwork for them at first. Kind of.
Well, wouldn't your farmer's
Take
market
some-
a good place for that? too?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I would be willing to help you with that.
And it'd be nice if we had a little booklet of some of the trees, and so when people ask us questions, we can come back with some answers.
Well, the city's maps already have them on there, doesn't it? So,
The maps,
Yeah.
the GIS does, and
Yeah.
then they're listed on our website.
Yeah, but we should have some
Well,
hard
we have a
copies so
scrap
they
that
can.
have at the farmer's market with maybe enlarged symbols that we could probably beef up them or put a big circle around them where they exist, because they're pretty small elements, but have that.
Yeah, and it'd be nice to be able
Visual
to
aid
show a
and
picture of the one that's there. And the one that's going to go, we should make a scene about the one over on Thompson, how we can get him to plant it and make him a superhero, replant another
Well,
tree.
what we would like
Judge's
to
house.
get then are some photographs. And if people want to get permission to take photographs of those trees and bring them to staff, that will help us tremendously. That'd be great.
They do.
Yeah.
All right. I'll come over tomorrow and get a list of where all the trees are. I probably have 2 of them already done.
Yeah, because the photos that I have on the website were taken when they were designated, at the time they were designated. So, and they're not very good photographs.
And I'll show some projects. We'll lay some out projects, the ones we're working on. See if kind of support
Sure.
people. What the heck?
Okay, so that is a DD.
Well, before we leave this, the signage thing is really important. I agree with Doug.
Nice.
Do we have a lead on that? Somebody take the lead on that whole thing?
Well,
I can't, but I just. I'd be
Ginger
willing to
came
help.
up with
Yeah.
a slightly different idea from the signage, so
Okay, that's
maybe
true.
that should be a separate
Okay, all right.
issue, or how do you want to
Well,
modify
there's a
what
little
we
bit,
have?
no, I don't, I think that's a great idea, but I'm talking about a sign that identifies a stream.
Stream, right?
And so it's, what we're talking about is a little bit different on that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a separate thing.
Right.
And are those like standard signs that you see, that are look like they come from the highway department? Shows a picture of a stream.
Or it could be a city sign too. I mean, it could be one that
comes
we
right
could
from
put
our.
forward some designs of ourselves to the commission or whatever, wherever it goes through to.
Right.
Essentially, there needs to be a nexus with a city goal, stormwater management and that kind of thing, in order for it to be considered a city or government-owned sign. We can't talk about content of signs because of the sign code. And it's this weird legal content neutrality issue.
Content neutrality, what does that
Yeah,
mean?
it has to do with sign code and freedom of speech. So we cannot regulate or say, if we're going to allow a sign to be placed next to a stream,
Yes.
depending on whether it's on private property or public right of way.
I was visualizing it. It's on where they go under streets. I was visualizing it be on public property.
Yeah, so if it's in public property and it's publicly owned and there's a nexus to a city program, no problem. We just have to Public Works to sign off on it.
Well, one way or another, the streams are all part of the stormwater system. So-
Right. So Martin Montalvo is very familiar with this issue because of the stream sign that was planted next to Washington Bridge. So I think probably we would go through that same process of getting Public Works to sign off on the sign once it's designed and we've figured out a location in concert with Public Works. Yeah. Or parks, if it's a park. Yeah.
So who's leading this charge? That
Well,
was my question.
some of this is probably going to come from the Watershed Council, I believe, but.
Well, I'm kind of interested in it. So
Yeah,
I could,
okay.
I could probably-
Well, the Watershed Council has never put forward that. Well, I'll take that back. Watershed Council is talking about signages on projects that they worked on.
You were just.
But I don't know that when the Watershed Council looked at that, it was talking about actual sites that the Watershed Council had worked on as opposed to identifying names of streams.
Okay.
I'm sure the Watershed Council would support that idea, but that's not what their signage plan was.
Well, I think your first project in this case was going to be like a pilot, I think. So if it's successful on one stream, you replicate it elsewhere. So I'm more than happy to assist with that. If you want to help guide me to where you.
Well, I'll go ahead and
Yeah.
put the lead on signing streams, but I think it was something that I was thinking that ought to go on the goals of the commission so that there's a funding source for the signage itself.
Funding source, yeah.
Now, you do have certain signs that you've already got. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's city, because I know it's city property, but you've got, for example, Coffee Creeks Falls there is designated a sort of with a certain kind of signage.
Yeah, and Hillendale Park, same way. And all the storm ponds and ones that are mitigated and maintained by Public Works have that signage on them. So,
But I was thinking, I just want to be clear, I was thinking of something that's just visible from the sidewalk or the street, where people driving by it can
you
actually
see it.
see it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I
Good
understand. Yeah. So we need to come up with a design and a funding source.
Yeah.
So 2017 is the next time the city commission looks at the budget, so we would pitch this to them in November, I believe, of this year, in anticipation of the city retreat.
Good.
Yeah. Great.
We considered for funding in 2017, is that what you're saying? Yeah, okay, good, that's good. Yeah. So I will work on this heritage tour thing, and I'll ask, after anybody else want to work with me on it?
I'll be
happy.
fine. I'll have
Yeah,
it.
sure.
Okay, I'd love to see the forester help me.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think that one of the things we've ignored here, you know.
Okay.
I've ignored in the past.
So, moving on to NRC responsibility number 2. This is tied to City Goal 3, which your little booklet here has your city
Yeah, I
goals
looked
on
at
it.
that. That was interesting.
Which includes the current sewer moratorium projects, stormwater master plan, Beaver Creek Road concept plan, waterfront master plan, transit service in Oregon City, and Tri-City Service District governance. So to the extent that the NRC can provide input on those ongoing updates, then that is within your bylaws.
I would really like to work on the North End waterfront master plan. I'd like to, maybe somebody else would like to do that too, because I think it's one of the areas that there's some real opportunities.
I don't have a lot of information on the status of that, Jerry, right now, but I'll write that down and come back. I do have some information from John Lewis on the stormwater master plan. I'll talk about that.
You?
Anyway, anything else on this one? That's an ongoing task. NRC responsibility number 3, receive notice and comment on land use applications and projects within city limits and urban growth boundary. Hopefully we're doing a better job of getting those notices out to y'all, especially with on a timely manner. Let's see.
I have a question for you. Of
Yeah.
the amount of material that I've seen,
Mhm.
how much does the planning division receive on a weekly basis? I mean, 8 or 10 or 20 or 30, or what is it?
Well, we have an open counter from 8:30 to 3:30, and then we have whatever is in the pipeline in terms of development review. So 4 planners working, and then 2 planners working on Willamette Falls Legacy Project exclusively. We have 2 new planners, so we're busy, and it's a busy time of year. But I don't know a number right now.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
NRC responsibility number 4, conduct orderly meetings that result in communications. Is that correct? Is that what we wanted it to say when we approved? When I hit accept changes, that's what it came out as, but I wanted to make sure that that was the correct language.
Which is that for, what?
Oh, on the next page, on page 2 at the top.
It's for
Conduct orderly meetings that result in communications. I think previously
see.
it said improved communications with various bodies and things like that, but
Yeah, that result in communication, improved
Anyway,
communication.
the activities that we put under this are reviewing NRC meeting agendas with staff prior to meetings with timeframes. I got to say, I don't think I've been doing as good a job at that as I should have. I think ideally 2 weeks prior to the meeting, I need to be talking to Doug and to you all informally via email to make sure that we have the agenda items keyed up and ready to go. 4B, maintain and update a list of Natural Resources Committee priorities to share with Planning Commission and City Commission. This is an ongoing thing. 4C, provide updates and annual reports about NRC accomplishments and recommendations to the City Commission. And this is to occur September and August in our meetings in advance of the City Commission retreat, in preparation for that. Finally, NRC responsibility number 5, coordinate with PRAC and Planning Commission on an annual basis.
Are we doing that?
We've done work sessions with Planning Commission on an annual basis. Still working on the PRAC annual meeting.
I happened to look at the January meeting, Limehole's cable access, and Doug was sitting up on the dais here with the other PRAC members, and I'm wondering if there's any way to share things that you think are important that PRAC is doing that we should know about, or vice versa, with them.
Well, I'm sure there's a benefit to it.
Since you're a joint member.
Let me feel that a little bit with the PRAC, but so there are certain resources that belong to the city, and I don't know. Well, I'll tell you, after the member communications, I'll bring up something I think that would be related.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to look back here at the wording that you were questioning, and that's the
sorry, yeah.
responsibility for conduct orderly meetings that result in communications.
Look back.
And then I'm looking at what we put under there and seeing if there's a better wording for it.
That result in improved communications. I think that was our whole issue, is that we felt we were not communicating, perhaps, and vice versa, with the powers that be. I think that's what I felt, but
Yeah,
So, well, I guess, but view agendas, that's fine, maintain updates, naturally show the city commission, right, provide updates and any reports recommend to the city commission.
look at the original red lines here.
I think things are a lot better myself. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I'm disappointed generally that there aren't people attending these meetings. A number of us have talked about that, and maybe we have to just do a little recruiting.
Frequently, what results in people attending meetings is something happening in the city that they don't
I
like.
agree. I
Yep.
hear what you're saying.
It's usually a good indicator.
Conduct,
We could offer free
Huh?
beverages. That might get them in.
What was that?
If we offer free beer, they might come.
I heard that, you say there's an ice cream machine back there?
Turns out it was just an ice
I
machine.
was going to suggest maybe conduct orderly meetings that facilitate communications with the planning commission, city commission, and be specific what that is. I mean, that's who we're attached to.
I think so.
So
You're right.
that facilitate communications.
Yeah.
Improves this suggests that maybe there's something wrong, and maybe there is, but I think if you use the word facilitate, it suggests
There.
Yeah,
something.
good cross communication amongst
Yes.
other committees,
Right.
commissions.
And since all of the things that are in here, it's where they're referring to other communications with other, one's internal between us and staff, but the other two are the planning commission, city commission. So facilitate communications with among staff and with the planning and city commission to make it clear what communications we're talking about.
So conduct orderly meetings that facilitate improved communication among staff and
The planning and city commissions, which are the ones who are ultimately responsible too.
okay, city commission, planning commission, and PRAC. Okay, that's easy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
very good. The now for communications.
Yes.
You want to take them one at a time, starting with the Earth Day cleanup events.
Right, so, you've got a blue card, or sorry, green card, I gave you more than one, so you can hand these out. Saturday, April 23rd, 2016, Clackamas Park, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. They'll be doing the cleanup, be light lunch provided. Please bring 2 cans of food for the Oregon Food Bank, and wear an Oregon City event shirt from years past in order to qualify for the raffle. And then you must be present to win. If you have any questions about this, contact Code Enforcement Department, 496-1559. The registration starts at 8:30. And
Why, I was looking at the sponsors here. Isn't Solve still sponsoring this in part? They're not listed.
I don't believe this year. If they are, then let Nancy know.
Okay, no big deal.
Um,
That's how it started.
Yeah, sure.
How do you find some of these old event shirts?
All right.
I can see if I have an additional one I could sell to you.
Good. If I win, maybe I'll talk about the winnings.
Well,
Split
I'd
the
be able to
winnings
sign a
with you.
contract that you wouldn't have to pay me unless you won the raffle.
That's right.
So the McLaughlin-Kanema Trail project did get recommended for approval. Now, this would be a planning grant, so it would allow us to actually facilitate planning it's not a construction type grant, but we're moving forward with additional planning to connect the trail from the promenade down through the Kenema neighborhood to the Kenema natural area, and that sort of thing, and provide wayfinding in the form of signs and those kinds of things, and identify where pedestrian improvements can be made given the existing conditions, and also providing a connection between Kenema and Main Street eventually, so that you can tie this whole area in together. It's a great idea. Got to give credit to Kelly Reed and Christina for coming up with that, and all of you all for helping review it. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Keep moving forward and bringing more information on that as it moves forward.
Is there a timeline on that or anything like that?
I
Probably it's early yet. Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah,
but when
I
I
was just
find out,
curious.
I'll share it for sure. If you made it to the open house for Willamette Falls Legacy Project, the final head count was 800 people showing up and participating and giving us much more input and more detailed input on what they would like to see down at the falls when it's ultimately constructed and the Riverwalk is constructed. We had, participation from a lot of volunteers helping out, and it was great. The preliminary photographs and results are on the website, but they haven't finished sifting through all of the input they got yet. That was really something. Yeah. So there is we missed a grant workshop deadline, but we didn't miss the deadline. We missed the workshop, April 11th, for Nature in the Neighborhoods Restoration and Community Stewardship Grant. The deadline coming up is May 16th. You can fill out a simple application by May 16th for a habitat restoration grant up to $50,000. I need to talk to Public Works and to Parks.
What's the deadline on that date again?
May 16th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Generally, I've been to the workshops before. I think Jerry has. Brian Boyce has been to those before as well. Generally, they talk about what things they will fund, what the local match has to be, what types of projects they funded in the past, and that sort of thing. All of that information is available on the Metro website. It is a great grant source. It's something that we need to take more advantage of, in my opinion, as a city. We just need to focus on which areas we really need to concentrate on. They funded over $600,000 to 15 organizations in 2015.
What was that amount?
One of those was the ELC, I believe, but there are two separate programs. There's a restoration grant program, and then there's the capital program, which is much more ambitious and has to do with interpretive centers and structures and things of that nature, where the grant is the grant match requirement is a little higher. But so please look this over. Talk to me if you have some ideas and want to pursue something, because NRC support would be critical to getting one of these grants. Now,
Is there something that your staff is thinking about in that vein at this time?
I will share with you what John Lewis has talked about, which may feed into this. But I don't have anything right now clear. One of the things that is going on with Public Works, and I'll just go into John Lewis's report. John was going to come tonight, but he had other obligations. So the Public Works Department is advertising statements of qualifications and a detailed project proposal from environmental consulting firms to prepare water quality improvement and habitat restoration feasibility studies for Clackamas Cove and adjacent areas along the Clackamas River. So there's certainly, that's a formalized process with funding from Public Works. The opportunity to do smaller projects outside of that scope, still remains. My feeling is that we should look at existing habitat areas and natural resources areas within city parks and public open space areas that we know require significant renovation or weed removal and invasive species removal. That will help us prioritize. Waterboard Park, for example, even though it's not a formal natural resources area, is a designated park and does have significant natural resources value. Hillendale Park is another one. Hillendale Park has a lot of problems with water that's too warm and sedimentation, a lot of invasive species problems, and very little money to fix it up. So that would be a clear candidate in my mind. There are several parks that have streams flowing in them in the same condition. So those would be obvious choices. And the Parks Department would love it if they could get support for a grant and somebody to help with, and come out and get sweat equity and volunteer labor and that kind of thing, because that's a part of the grant match.
Can I come back to it? Sure. These grant applications you're talking about are to whom again?
They are through Metro, and they're provided.
They're not the Metro enhancement grants that the city runs, and they're actually directly to Metro.
They are funded by Metro, I believe.
Right. So they're not the tipping fee grants that the city awards.
No.
Oh, okay.
They're part of the larger
Right.
Metro bond funding for maintenance and open space and habitat and within the entire UGB. Yeah.
Now, you're mentioning the possibility at parks. That's not something Public Works is putting forward, but is the parks? I haven't heard from Parks and Rec.
No, I haven't heard from Parks and Rec on this.
So this is something that's coming for Public Works, or something that you think we ought to be looking at?
I'm thinking that we could coordinate with the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're shooting
as
for
a
May
potential.
16th. May 16th, we'd have to do something very quickly.
Yeah, we'd have to do something very quickly, but there's another grant cycle coming up. I think they do it twice a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But this thing you're talking about with John Lewis is related to water quality
Yeah, that's a separate
as it
issue.
relates
Right.
to public works responsibilities.
Yeah.
And that's for another funding source at Metro. So
No.
That's the same one, I think. Yeah.
No?
No, that's a separate thing entirely, but,
Oh.
you know, when you have separate projects going on that accomplish the same goals, you
Yeah.
can, usually part of a grant application is what current things are going on in the city to support this, that tie into this.
So we're not, the grants that you're suggesting we take a look at,
Mm-hmm.
are they the same Metro grants that you're talking about in terms of what Public Works is putting forward, or are they different Metro grants?
Different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry to confuse
Yeah,
you.
could you start out your presentation talking about the Cove and Public Works sending out
Right.
RFQ, I think, isn't that what it is? Request for qualifications or something?
Yeah, so
All right.
this is something related to, well, it's not related to the development, but it is something that the city commission wants to pursue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's funded by a separate funding source from Metro.
Oh, okay.
I don't know where that funding source.
Well, you know, the two things that Metro does with Nature in the Neighborhoods and whatever the other one's called are so closely aligned. When you hear them, it's hard to differentiate which is which.
They are.
They need to do something about that.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. But
Yeah, the Trails one was separate from the
Yeah.
Nature in the Neighborhood was
Right.
one.
So actually, I meant to hand these out. This is the copy of the email from John Lewis.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay.
Pass that down.
Just to be clear on what you were talking about in terms of grant applications to some of these parks that have issues,
Mm-hmm.
I want to make clear who the granting source you were talking about was, or is that just to be identified yet? Or is that the name?
So, the grant workshop that I talked about with the May 16th deadline is with Metro. And the deadline on that grant application is May 16th, but there would be a second, they do 2 of these a year.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's funded by Metro bond money throughout the entire
Okay.
metro area. See, Jerry, have you applied for one of these before?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm shaking my head here. We were trying to get Metro support to overhaul a Metro wetland, which was built as your requirement
Yeah.
to
As a
meet
development
the
requirement.
needs of the, land use functions at the transfer station. And I ran into this continuing blockade from the solid waste division that they didn't want people in there or wildlife. So if you don't want people, there's a trail. Trail's a mile long, almost, 3/4 of a mile, including bridges that you put in. So if you don't want people in there, why is there a trail? And then the second thing was, if you don't want wildlife, what's the problem? The problem is the water quality is affected by wildlife. I said, well, if the wildlife weren't there, then the water quality would be better. Yes. And I said, how about your petroleum spills? Because their petroleum's emanating from their facility into that area. And they said, well, don't talk about that. I said, well, we need to talk about that because, we have to address that too. It goes to Clackamas Cove.
Mm-hmm.
That waterway goes. And it's a beautiful little site, but it needs help.
Mm-hmm.
So this week I was contacted by the Solid Waste Division because I was kind of squawking a little bit about all this, and they said we're going to have you work with the natural areas folks and come up with a solution to your problem. I said it's not my problem, it's your problem, and we should be looking at how we all work together to make it work. There's tripping hazards everywhere in there, roots sticking up, And I'm saying this because we put in the trails there many, many years ago, along with other volunteers. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an information kiosk that's never been used, ever. That's still there, so it could play a role. But if the solid waste division is saying no, we don't want anything done, then the natural areas funding people can't fund it. You see what I'm saying? Kind of catch-22. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been exciting.
Whose solid waste is it? The issue of the county?
Well, no, it's the solid waste division of Metro
Oh,
oversees that wetland. And the first question would be, let's all work together to get it back into public use, safe public use, and let's encourage the wildlife, not discourage them.
no, this is the facility next to the
Transfer station.
transfer
Yeah.
station. Okay.
And it's about 2 acres.
Yeah. No, I know which. I know
Yeah,
which.
pretty good sized area. Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
I didn't.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, the other items John wanted to let you know about, Public Works Operations have solicited quotes to complete the landscape maintenance contractor bids for the various open spaces and stormwater facilities. I think we had a presentation from Martin Montalvo about this last year. They've selected 2 contractors, and the process resulted in $25,000 in savings in annual costs for the work.
Oh.
Public Works is just kicking off the Stormwater Master Plan update. We did adopt the erosion control and design standards last year, but under the understanding that we would have to come back and update the Stormwater Master Plan as well. So that will be a legislative process to update, and you'll have opportunity to see that when it starts off. Beaver Creek Road and 213, we think that this bid that he's talking about is with respect to extending the left turn lane from turn pocket islands from Beaver Creek Road onto 213, the two left turn lanes that go from eastbound onto northbound 213. Bids due early June, bid award on the 6th of July, construction in August. That would be removing part of the landscape median in order to make way for that. The main item that John did want to talk to you about, which he may still come back and talk to you about in more detail with some plans to show you, is the operations center planning for the Center Street site, which you're familiar with. They have had an architect looking at the original conditions of approval from the City Commission, and many revisions from the original approved plan have been made, with significant changes with respect to the upper yard where the bluff was originally proposed to be removed in the basalt area.
And
that sort of thing.
ingress, egress changes? too?
Yeah, there's some changes to
Yeah.
that. There's a lot of parking location changes and those kinds of things. And significant relocation of some of the original buildings as well.
That's really, I'm glad to see him doing this, you know.
Not proposed to be a four-story building on Center Street anymore, but instead have a smaller administrative complex above within the site itself.
Linked along the face of the bluff?
That I can't remember. But
Okay.
we'll have to send the site plans. So
It really was an amazing design, idea, I thought.
all of those are important topics for the Public Works Department, and John felt of interest to the NRC. He did want to open the door, so if you have further questions about this, talk to him or to Martin
Okay.
Montalvo, and I'll try to get you further updates on these. Thanks.
Good.
Anything to add?
I really appreciate him doing this, sharing
Yeah,
this
me too.
information with us, this is really
Yes,
good.
great.
Really good. Actually, this is almost kind of like what I'd like to see us do back and forth with RAC, because I don't know what they're doing, you know. That would be kind of nice to.
Putting in pickleball courts is what we're doing.
That's what you're doing. Is this for the Portland Pickle
No,
baseball team?
no.
You were thinking about that name.
I don't know. And the women's sweat T-shirts are something else too.
Okay, starting with communications, and so I'll start with you, Dorothy. Since you have the floor, go ahead. Communications.
Communications. I'm assuming we're talking about communications. With
Well, we
our-
got future agenda items here. I was thinking about saying things that we were doing, which I guess didn't get put on here. Can be future agenda items. Does anybody want future agenda items? Then we'll come to communications. Any future
I
agenda
do.
items? Okay.
And that's the business that we looked at, creating a portfolio of riverside enhancement opportunities that the Lower Harbor Trust Fund could fund. I think I've talked about this before. And I think it's time that we get John Runyon here to tell us about how the Lower Harbor Trust Fund works. I do know that he's responding to the request for qualifications that was being discussed about the Cove, but that doesn't, I think, put him in a compromising position because he knows how it works, and we need to understand how it works. And I shared with at least a couple of people here some opportunities I think that are possible from the north end of the city up toward the falls along the river edge that the Lower Harbor Trust Fund can help with. Now, Westland's got two projects going right now because they were introduced to the idea about 6 months ago by myself and John Borden, and now they're in the queue to get large amounts of money to solve some things on their side of the river. Gladstone is how do I say this nicely? Throwing bombshells at the idea that was previously done by the previous council. And so the Portland Harbor Trust Fund is still doing some things there, but may pull out. And we're in a very good position, I think, here with the Cove. They love the Cove idea right now, the Lower Harbor Trust Fund people, I was told. So I think we as a committee should take the lead and see what we could do. Have John Runyon come speak to us at our next meeting, if that would be possible, if there's nothing else on the agenda, or somebody from that group, and see how we can submit ideas for consideration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the Lower Harbor
And I'm calling
Trust-
it the Pioneer Portfolio, because it's the Pioneer City, right?
Okay.
And the whole reason for the portfolio was you have to have some ideas for them to look at. Then they carry the ideas to the funding sources, and if they have traction, they fund them. So, anyway.
Anything else for a future agenda item?
Just the work plan items that we've added, we'll get an update on those.
On what we did tonight.
Yep.
Okay.
See, we are anticipating getting a presentation from Metro, I think, at some point. With respect to, well, they've already come and talked to, did Metro do a presentation on the Newell Creek Open Space Trailhead for you at this point?
I've
Okay.
heard presentations, but I don't know if they made a presentation to us.
Not directly to the NRC.
Yeah, you need to check on that.
Mm. We've held a pre-application conference with them. They're in the process of preparing a site plan and design review application that was submitted to the city for that.
Yeah.
It would be reviewed as a site plan as well as a natural resources overlay district review for the portions that are within the city, within our NROD. And then there's the day use area with some kiosks, an interpretive center, a parking area, and then trailheads that are on different parcels that they own further north and further south. Back off of, what is the old Walmart site, there's a trailhead entrance point, which is primarily a maintenance road, but that would be part of the site plan. And then the majority of the trail system is outside the city limit in Clackamas County, so there's going to be some concurrent review going on with Clackamas County in that portion.
Has Metro acquired the Walmart site?
No.
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 But I think they've acquired a majority of the property north of the day use area.
And where you go, Warner Parrott Road, and there's another road, I think has another name that extends into it next to the Bank of the West.
Yes.
That will be the access to a park area that'll be on top.
Okay.
And then the trails will emanate from there. And they purchase that flat area on top.
There's
Yeah.
12 acres up there. They did make a suggestion when Metro was giving a presentation on that area, and I don't know who they were giving the presentation to. I was just attending the meeting. And they had made suggestions of possibly putting, when they develop it, connecting a road. Was it Bill mentioned?
William
Had mentioned another road that
Yes.
could connect over, which is a really good idea. They'd have to remove a tower or two, but that was at the Metro Council meeting up at the museum.
Okay.
And they were doing a presentation up there.
Now, they made several public presentations. So.
Yeah. That's a great, that'll enhance that neighborhood up there so much in the park. That's really a jewel in our backyard.
I'm going to suggest something, Pete. Have they indicated they wanted to come to us, or were you?
I was going to request they come and, at the time that they apply for the site plan review. If, hopefully it will coincide with the meeting, but if it
I
doesn't.
think it would be really good to invite PrAC to that particular meeting.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on the future agenda items?
Just following up on what Dee Dee was saying about ways to promote or reward,
Good
The-
deeds.
well, good deeds, but specific to tree.
Yeah, what we do is our natural resources. You know,
So
if someone's
I'd like to
doing
dial
it.
in that a little more.
There was also, and I think we could do that outreach at anything that we go to. If, you know, little stickers and things like that, you know, everyone loves to look like they're an honor student, you know, of a type, you know, and then to have some small signage of when we're doing something just ourselves, and just make it noticeable everywhere we go. What's going on with there? Why is that one family doing one thing? Why? You know, we could really start with our schools, our little kids. You know, they have such a wonderful program up at the farmers market where monies get matched for kids. I mean, we could reward somebody with great stickers and fun little T-shirts, event T-shirts.
One tree, one family, one.
Once a year. Just making something so small, like one tree, one family, once a year. Isn't that little? Yeah, but if 15 people did it,
Yeah.
you know, and then we can do a count. You know, you can do these funny little counts on the front of cities, like we're the city of trees, but one of the really good ways I think Milwaukee deters people to go 30 miles an hour is that they have a citation count at the beginning of their city. You walk in, it says 2015 we gave away 1,200 citations. You can also say the similar things,
I know that our police department's not interested in that.
but you can do a positive way.
Yes, that's right.
Of this
Right.
same thing. And since we don't have our courier, we just have the Portland Trib. We'll definitely have to work closely with that to shine all the positive little heroes. There are some high school students that set up, they were called local lords. And in the local lords, they had OC as OC's local lords. And you could turn that into Lake Oswego's local lords. And, you know, cities could really run on that whole little
Well, now, you think-
local lord.
You're looking, Pete, to put that as an agenda item, is that right?
I don't know. I'm just blabbing because I have a chance.
I'm just, no, not.
Okay, all right.
But, you know, I mean, just
Yeah.
something like that, maybe we could, you know, reward somebody and try to get it as pictured as what we can, as well as we can to. There was also another gentleman, Mark Matheson. I think you guys, most of you know him. He's,
Oh, the GIS idea.
yeah, he is at the Berkeley Hills Neighborhood Association, and he works with CERT, which I don't know. I'm not. It's an emergency.
Oh, yeah, I know
thing.
Mark, yep.
But he knows very much about GSI systems. I know this much more than I knew about this much, and he was saying that he's quite the guru and that he's got a system of his own, and he would like to help us identify public areas on gross scale, and then see about how to map them. He's thought he could do this whole thing in a couple months. I think.
The city has its own capabilities there.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I was being questioned that I could not. Those are not questions I could
Right.
answer back. I said, please bring it to our
Because
meeting.
I think if we
And I
had
thought I would see how some way we can embrace this, but
Yeah.
he didn't show.
In fact, the GIS department keeps coming out with new versions of the current system, and it
Yeah.
gets better each time.
I'd like a little
Yeah.
lesson.
They've done quite a bit of canopy mapping on their own and incorporated separate layers for the GIS for heritage trees, street trees, because they're actually going down and pinpointing
Because- Because if you, rather than bring somebody else out to talk about it, I think the best thing is to have the city tell you what we can do.
Oh, I agree. Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
This is what came at me, and I had 4 follow-up emails on it too, and I thought, oh, I gotta bring this up.
I'm gonna move us. Yeah, I'm gonna move us on to communications, and will that be part of your communications? Anything else you want to communicate?
Those are my 2 things I wanted to say.
Okay.
I will relay them because he didn't come.
I don't have a whole lot. I did have the opportunity to go to that Willamette Falls Legacy thing, and I really enjoyed going through all the different little sections there and looking at the map and the air photo and reading all the stuff and talking to some people. And yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, like I said, there were a lot of people there, and it was neat to see the community kind of come together and kind of just embrace the project, it seemed like. So.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of anticipation. It's kind of like
And I was very clever
The
about
team's
how
looking
they
at-
made the
Yeah, all the like,
the relations, how
Yeah,
they
the
correlated
relationships,
relations, how they tried to spur emotions out of you with pictures, and how they there had to have been other psychological things that were spurring, like chocolate cake and stuff like that, had to spur some type of emotion that had to relate somewhere.
well, I think it just helps maybe bring it
Yeah.
more to people's mind of actually what's going to happen too. So.
Yeah.
And put a red dot where you like and when you don't.
Yep.
I like that.
I personally had a hard time with those feelings because I felt personally it should have been tied more to the public access. And when I saw, I believe it was one of my favorite pictures, the one that came from the movie Avatar, but I said it was a great science fiction movie. That was my basis for it. But so I didn't quite share that aspect of it. But what I thought was great was having those tables there for the kids to color. They
Yeah.
were enjoying it. And also the tables where you could talk to people that were actually focusing on the
Yeah.
specific values of the area and
Yeah.
give your
And they wrote
give the
down what you
input.
said.
And they were writing down what you
Writing
said.
down what you said.
I thought that was very good. I was sort of surprised that Solve isn't on this list. Like I mentioned, the Great Oregon City Watershed Council set a different date other than this particular date. It's coming up on Saturday for our cleanup and working at the Abernathy Creek Park that's there, and we're working directly with Solve on that particular thing. And I would not know why the city would not have that as the partnership, unless they accidentally left it off.
What date was that? For Abernathy Creek?
Well, we've had so many people sign up, we've closed the sign-ups. So I don't want to discourage anybody.
No, that's all right.
But we've had a lot of people sign up, and perhaps more than we have tools for.
what date? Same date?
No, that's the point. It was a different date because we one of the principal groups we use is the Oregon High Schools JROTC, and they had a different commitment on the 23rd, so that's why we advanced to the date.
So yours this weekend.
Yes, and that's why we'll not be there at the LC.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
why we'll not be there at the LC. And I forgot what I was going to comment on that came up, and I decided to hold it afterwards. Does anybody remember what we're talking?
It's your PrAC thing. I'm trying to figure out how we can have better communication with PrAC.
I'll bring it up, but actually, I think there are some areas that I think PrAC ought to look at. We got areas that the parks maintains that are not parks. That whole stretch of along the Clackamas River, that trail that extends from the bridge on to Clackamas Cove, it's city-owned property, and I don't know why that's not a park. And it's also a natural resource area. It's right on the Clackamas River within the floodplain. So I guess I think we need to see some broader inventory of lands that the city owns that are in fact natural resource things that are really not in any clear
I sense
designation.
also that Parks and Recreation staff are doing a lot of things that aren't Parks and Recreation functions to help maintain areas that nobody else will take care of. And I didn't say that in a bad way.
No, I understand.
Case in point, and during Trail Interpretive Center is maintained by Parks and Rec. And it's very well done, very well kept. you
Yeah.
know. So the natural resource areas that they're involved themselves with, I think we could maybe give some input on. I don't know. But,
So an inventory of city-owned properties are within the natural resource overlay district or other sensitive areas.
Yeah,
Depending on ownership, it might be urban renewal, it might be parks, it might be
and who's maintaining would be a good question. Martin Montalvo oversees a bunch of contracts that you just talked about in John Lewis's report for all the detention areas and swales and so forth that they're required to maintain for water quality purposes. So who's doing the rest? And then they're doing a good job. I'm not opposed to it, but I mean,
okay.
yeah.
Jerry, any updates from you of anything?
No, but again, my question is, like he sent us a report, John did. Can we send something like of what we're doing to PRAC, and vice versa? Could we ask them to send something of what they're up to us? That was a
Yes.
neat little summary that he just did, John Lewis.
Yeah, part of there was more, I think this gets back to the more systematized way of generating agenda items.
Okay.
Sending out a call to the departments well in advance of our meeting.
Well, I'm going to suggest an alternative, and I'd say a study session joint between PRAC
Yeah.
and us. I think perhaps that's one of the best ways to deal with it.
Okay.
I mean, I've made the recommendation of signage for streams. I've done something a little different in PRAC by talking about signage from major streets where you can actually go through a park to get to a different destination. So to indicate that what the trail systems operating in some of those parks are.
Okay.
So I'm sure there are lots of things that we could think about that are of joint interest to both groups,
Sure.
probably more than any other committees.
Yeah.
And so I would suggest that we put it forward as a joint study session. I think it would be well to do it in conjunction with that August, September time when we're talking about goal setting.
Yeah.
There might be a benefit at the lead end of that period of time to get PRAC and us together. There may be something that we can do within joint goals and in the process perhaps create greater strength for the city to go ahead and budget some things that we'd like to see budgeted if both of these entities are going forward on some of those things.
Good. Sounds good. Yep.
Ginger,
No, I'm good.
we know you're good.
And I don't mean it that way.
Oh, how do you? Never mind. Anyway, anything else for the good of the order?
We're good.
Okay, we're finished.
Thank you.
Good.